ברוכות הבאות, ladies. ברוכות הנמצאות. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tonight, in light of so many of the recent tragedies that have afflicted our communities, I wanted to discuss a topic that I feel can assist us in eliminating some of the challenges that we've been forced to witness in this generation. The subject I want to discuss tonight is the midah of vatranut, the characteristic trait of vitur. What is the idea of being a mevater? Simply speaking, vitur is the ability to yield to another person, to forego our rights and relinquish what belongs to us. It's the act of surrendering to the other person. That's the simple explanation. But I want to explain it to you further by exploring three different stories. The first story concerns the great Rabbi Akiva Eiger, alav shalom, who was a very, very big Talmid Chacham. When he was a young man and he was engaged to be married, he was already known as a tremendous ilui in Torah. Now, the minhag in those days was that the Chatan travels to the home of the in-laws for Shabbat, and a big gathering is held where the Chatan proceeds to give a drasha on Torah matters in order to impress the crowd in a way to give honor to the in-laws. So Rabbi Akiva Eiger went to visit his future in-laws, and of course everybody was anxiously waiting for this Talmid Chacham's dissertation. But after the Shabbat meal, he announced that he wasn't going to say anything. Everybody was shocked. So they asked him a few questions about Torah matters, and he gave very quick one-word answers that took everybody by surprise. The rabbis who were sitting there turned to Rabbi Akiva Eiger's future father-in-law, and they said to him, "Unfortunately, you got duped. This guy doesn't know Torah. What kind of son-in-law is this? He can't even deliver a few words of Torah." Rabbi Akiva Eiger heard this, so he turned to his future father-in-law and he said to him, "Let's wait until tomorrow and then we'll meet again." Sure enough, the following day on Yom Rishon, Rabbi Akiva Eiger proceeded to give a 3-hour-long shiur that dazzled all the Rabbanim in attendance. So after the shiur, they came over to him and they asked him, "Why couldn't you give this drasha yesterday?" And he said to them, "I don't know if you noticed, but yesterday there was another Chatan in the Bet HaKnesset. And it was very clear to me that he was not so well versed in Torah. And I knew that if I deliver my shiur, it's going to put him in a bad light in front of his in-laws. They might even think that they made the wrong decision for their daughter. So I gave up my right to speak, and I even risked being embarrassed and the consequences, all for the sake of this boy." This is a classic case of vatranut, because every Chatan has the right to speak at such occasions, and he doesn't have to make calculations as to who's present or what level of Torah they're on. Such moments happen only once in a lifetime, where you have the chance to stand in front of your in-laws as a Chatan and honor them with your Torah knowledge. That happens only once in a lifetime. By the way, it's not like today. The Chatan comes to the in-laws, and what does he do? He sits there and has a good time the whole Shabbat. Where's the derashot? Where's the gathering? Where's the... Anyway, but Rabbi Akiva Eiger decided to give up his right that every Chatan has. He gave up his personal right, he gave up his kavod and personal glory. This is vitur. That's one kind of vitur. The vitur of giving up your own kavod. The Gemara discusses a different kind of vitur by introducing us to a great Tanakh personality named Iyov. Everybody here remembers Iyov? Iyov was a big tzaddik, and the Gemara says that one of his amazing qualities was Iyov vatran b'mamoneh hava. Iyov was a person who yielded and relinquished when it came to his money. What does that mean? The Gemara says that there are generous people out there who, for example, let's say someone is paying for his bill, and then they turn to the service provider, to the worker, and they say to the worker, you know what? Keep the change. Keep the change. These people are not so particular about the exact dollar amount and the change. If the person worked hard, he deserves a little extra for his time, so he gives the extra. We call these people big tippers. And Iyov is complimented in this way by the Rabbanim in the Gemara. They hold him in the highest regard because of the fact that he was willing to give up a little bit extra of his money. Now, it is his money after all. That extra money belongs to Iyov, not to the worker, because the worker was already paid for his job. But Iyov was a mevater. He took what belonged to him, which was the change. The change is coming to him, and he yielded to somebody else instead. That's the second example. Being a mevater when it comes to money. The third example I want to give you isn't from the Tanakh, and it's not from the Gemara. It's actually a story that took place with Chacham Baruch ben Chaim, alav shalom. He was the chief rabbi of the Syrian community here in New York. He was the rabbi of his own shul, and he was quite often the Baal Koreh. He read from the Sefer Torah. And because of his great position in the community, he had the right to any aliyah that he wanted, especially if he had a yortzeit in the family. But amazingly enough, whenever he had the yortzeit of either of his parents, where he had all the right to ask for a particular aliyah on that day, he always gave it away to someone else and never went up to the Sefer Torah on the yortzeit of his parents. It's hard to understand this because it's a big inyan to go up to the Torah on the day of a yortzeit and to recite the tefillah of the hashkavah and then recite kaddish for the parents. This is something every male child wants to do because it's a mitzvah and it's a zechut to elevate the neshama of the departed one step higher in Shamayim. But Chacham Baruch was willing to be mevater the aliyah for his own parents' yortzeit, and instead he gave it to one of his students who also had a yortzeit of one of his parents on the same day that he had a yortzeit. So when people realized that the Rav was giving up his own aliyah for the sake of the Talmid, they came to the Chacham and they said to him, Kvod Rav, we don't understand. You have the yortzeit of both your parents. How could you just forego your right to your aliyah? How do you just let it go like that? It's a big thing. You can't just let it go. And he answered them, why do I request an aliyah? Because I want my parents to have an aliyat neshama, no? By me foregoing the aliyah and giving it to my talmid, my parents will receive an even greater elevation. So if I want to do something for my parents, I guarantee you that they benefit more from me being a mevater than if I would hold on to my rights. You hear this? You hear this out there? Ladies, in this third case, the mitzvah belongs to the rabbi. He has the right because, first of all, it's his bet knesset. and he's the chief rabbi of the whole community. Why would someone give up that right? That's the difficulty in understanding the midah of vatranut. In other words, why should I give up my prestige? Why should I give up my money? Why should I give up my mitzvah? Sometimes it's difficult to understand what's expected from us and why it's expected. And explaining this midah of vatranut, especially to those who were raised in America, is very, very challenging. Why is it more difficult to explain it to them, to people who were born in America and raised in America? Because today, the world is addicted and is consumed, especially in America, with rights. With rights. Wherever we go, we're told what our rights are. When you walk into a store, there's a big sign on the wall that reads consumer rights. When you get on an airplane, in the pocket of the seat, sometimes you find there passengers' rights. Even animals have rights today. Nachon? A criminal who's convicted of the worst crimes, before he's arrested, they read him his rights. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. Bimkom to tell him you do not have the right to even say a word. En lecha zchut. En lecha zchut dibur bechlal, you just killed that guy. You don't even have the right now to an attorney. We'll talk about it later. You have the right. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right. They give this murderer the rights. Sadly today, anybody who leads any sort of lifestyle, v'amavin yavin, is given rights and privileges. In this country, everybody asks, what am I entitled to? What's coming to me? Ma magia li? What's rightfully mine? So try to explain to these people that they now have to relinquish their rights, to yield, and to be a mevater. They're going to look at you like you fell off the moon, because in this generation, people are trying to create more and more rights for themselves. But then Yahadut comes along and preaches the exact opposite. Not only should you not take what doesn't belong to you, but what does belong to you, you should give it away. A person in today's society would say, but it's my body. I could do whatever I want. It's my body. It's my money. It's my kavod. And it's my mitzvah. So why should I surrender? Why should I let it go? And to be honest with you, ladies, many of us grapple with this question. Why should we yield and surrender to something or someone else? Why is the Torah asking us to be vatranim? The Holy Chida, alav shalom, Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Azulai, in his Sefer Midbar Kedemot, writes one line concerning the midah of vatranut. What does he write? He writes, vatranut misitra de kedusha. The midah of yielding, of surrendering, comes from the side of kedusha. Misitra de kedusha. When we hear the word kedusha, we think of the loftiest things. Kedusha is something that's found in the highest realms of Shamayim. And the Chida puts the midah of vatranut in the highest realms, in the Kodesh HaKodashim, Misitra de Kedusha. Ladies, we have to try to understand this. Where's the Kedusha exactly? Kedusha to us is somebody who maybe immerses in the mikveh every day, somebody who's wrapped up in his talit and tefillin, and he's immersed in the study of Torah all day long. When we think of Kedusha, our mind takes us to very elevated places. But here we're told that somebody who lets things go and he surrenders is accessing the side of Kedusha? We would think just the opposite. we would assume that somebody who always surrenders and yields to somebody else, he's a loser. He's a weakling. Somebody's always getting stepped on. But the Chidah says, no, you have it all wrong. Such a midah is from the side of Kedusha. Misitra de Kedusha. So let's analyze what the Chidah meant and what we learned from his words. The great Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, alav shalom, in his Sefer Mesilat Yesharim, discusses a certain midah that he says is Kedusha. He writes that those who come to master Kedusha will reach the highest levels of Ruchaniyut that he calls Midat Ha'anava, the characteristic of humility. He writes, Kedusha mevi'ah lidei anava. Kedusha leads to humility. Now, maybe now we could understand a little better. You see, every one of us here could understand the importance of being a humble person, of being an anav. This is something we could all appreciate. Even if we're living in modern society, we could all agree that being a bal gava, being arrogant and having haughtiness, and all those people who are self-absorbed, it's not nice. All of us could agree that arrogance is a very bad trait. Anybody could understand that. We can all value the idea of being humble, modest, and low-key. After all, anava is one of the most important traits in our religion. As a matter of fact, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu was looking for a leader for Am Yisrael, who did he choose? Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. The Torah Kedosha praises Moshe, saying, "Veha'ish Moshe anav." Moshe Rabbeinu was one of the most humble of men, and of course, as we were growing up, we were always told, "Don't be a Baal Gava, don't be arrogant, be humble, be anav." When we were in the Bet Yaakovs, our teachers always taught us the importance of anava. We all know how important the virtue of humility is. But how do I achieve this midah? Because that midah is connected to vatranut. Soon we're going to find out. If I want to emulate the great rabbi and leader Moshe Rabbeinu, if I want to be like HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is himself humble, how can I do it? So I want to illustrate how important this midah of humility is to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. See, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu was choosing a mountain on where to give his Torah, he forewent all the tall and majestic mountains, and instead he chose little Har Sinai, a little valley. And he chose that little mountain Dafka because it was so inconspicuous and modest. So we had the humble leader, Moshe Rabbeinu, on the modest mountain, Har Sinai. We see from here that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is attracted to humility, and we even see it in his holy name that's spelled Yud, Hey, Vav, and a Hey. The Rabbanim wonder why HaKadosh Baruch Hu dafka chose these letters for his name. Whenever you see this name, you know this is the name of Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have chosen any of the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet for his name, but he specifically chose the Yud, the Hey, and the Vav, because the Hey repeats itself. Why these letters? Why these letters? The Mefarshim explain that these letters are the smallest letters in the Hebrew alphabet. What does that mean? How do we see that they're the smallest letters? I'm going to explain it to you. Take the letter Yud from Yud Kei Vav Kei, the letter Yud. The letter Yud, if you spell it out, Yud is spelled like this. Yud. right? Now, if we do the gematria of the milui, milui means you take the letter Yud and you spell it out. Yud, Vav, Dalid. Yud, Vav, and Dalid. A Yud is 10. Vav and Dalid is another 10. 10 and 10 is 20. So Yud equals 20. Yafe. Okay? Let's look at the letter Hey. It was Yud, Hey, Vav. Let's look at the letter Hey. How would we spell out the letter Hey? Hey is Hey. Hey, Aleph. Hey is 5. Aleph is 1. Hey and 1 is equals 6. Very nice. So Hey is Shesh, 6. Then we have Vav. Yud, Kei, Vav. Nachon, Yud, Hey, Vav, from Hashem's name. Vav is spelled Vav, Aleph, Vav. Vav, Vav. A Vav is 6. Aleph is 1 is 7. And 6 is... So altogether, this Vav is equal to 13. Yafeh me'od. Now, ladies, there is no letter in the Hebrew alphabet that is as small in number as these 3 letters when we do the milui. I'm going to prove it to you. Watch. Wow. Let's take the letter Aleph. Aleph, b'milui, is 30 and 80 is 110 and 1 is 111. Very interesting, by the way, that Aleph, which represents Alufo Shel Olam, which is a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and the Anochi is with the Aleph, is 1, 1, 1. Very interesting. The Aleph itself equals 1. En od milvado hu echad ve'yachid. But anyway, Aleph, 111. That's a big number. That's a big number. Nachon? Let's take a look at the letter Bet. Bet is spelled like this, b'milui. Bet, Bet. Bet is 410 plus 2 is 412. 412 is a big number. It's a huge number. If you go across the alphabet like this and you do the gematria, Gimel, Dalet, Zayin, Chet, and so on and so forth, every single letter in its milui adds up to a very large number. Shomim? What does that teach us? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose the smallest numerical numbers, the Yud, the Hey, and the Vav, to represent him. That means that for HaKadosh Baruch Hu's holy name, a name that can only be said in purity and can't be said in vain, HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose the most humble of numbers. Is that amazing? Yes or no?
Yes.
So we see how humility, anava, is a virtue. So how do I put anava into practice? When a person stands up for his rights, it's my right. What is he basically saying? It's my money, belongs to me, it's my kavod. When he says that, it's because his ego is getting in the way. When a person says, it's my property, it's my kavod, it's my mitzvah, at that moment the person thinks he has a certain propriety in the world. He thinks he has a certain amount of ownership in this world. He actually thinks that something belongs to him. Unfortunately, in our generation, this attitude is very predominant. See, we're very good about keeping the first 2 commandments of the Aseret HaDibrot. We're very good about that. We could keep those. Chachamim say it's very interesting. The first commandment is Anochi. You keep that commandment very well. And the second commandment is Lo Yeh Lecha. Meaning, the first commandment is the I, Anochi, the self. Me, myself, and I. Because a person is so self-absorbed, where it's all about the I, the Anochi, then the result is Lo Yeh Lecha. It's mine. I'm not going to give it to you. A person doesn't allow himself to share with anybody else or forego to anyone else. That's what the ego does. It forces a person to think, it's my right, so why should I give it up? Or HaKadosh Baruch Hu teaches them the opposite. You're going to go with the attitude of Anochi. Lo Yeh Lecha, meaning it's mine, so I'm not going to give it to you. בסדר. You go with the Anochi, and I'm going to take care of Lo Yeh Lecha. It's not going to come to you at the end of the day. Yeah? But the point is that such an attitude is all about the self and what's coming to me and what belongs to me. But the humble person is the one who realizes that nothing is his. Nothing belongs to you because you're a creation of God. L'Hashem ha'aretz u'meloah. The entire world and everything that fills it belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu owns everything. It's the property of God. My kavod? What kavod? What kavod? The glory belongs to God. Melo kol ha'aretz kevodo. My money? What's my money? It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu's money, and He gives it to you on loan. That's why, by the way, I have to take the time to thank all those ladies out there, Torah Anytime, and also to some of the ladies here who have really, really extended themselves and have been donating to our cause of the renovations. I want to thank you so much. You're mamish digging into your pockets and relinquishing all those funds and giving and giving. Be'ezrat Hashem, I hope that in the next few weeks you're going to continue to give and we're going to finish our renovations. Nachon?
Yes.
Amen. But point is, thank you so much. That's the point. You're mamash mevatrim. Mamash vatronim. Keep it up. But the point is, Chachamim say, even the mitzvot don't belong to you. Even the mitzvot HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you as a zchut. Everything belongs to the Creator. Therefore, the mevater has to have a certain measure of anava. Has to have a certain amount of humility. So when you come along and you say, you know what, take it. I let it go. At that moment, you're displaying the midah of anava. You're demonstrating that you realize there's a God in the world and that everything in this world belongs to Him. So by me giving in or giving over something to someone, it's not that I'm giving what belongs to me to that person. On the contrary, I'm showing you at this moment that there's a Borei Olam, that there's a Creator, and that everything belongs to Him. Ladies, the midah of vatranut comes from the midah of anava. And that's what the Chida meant when he said, Hi misitra de kedusha. That vatranut comes from the side of kedusha. Because once you become a mevater, it's going to lead you to the ultimate level of being like Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. We could even say that Moshe Rabbeinu was one of the biggest vatranim that ever lived. Think about it. Think about the time when HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed Himself to Moshe at the burning bush. And He said to Moshe, Moshe, you're going to lead the Jewish people out of Egypt. Does anybody here understand the kind of honor this is? To be considered the Goel, to be considered the Redeemer, the ultimate Navi that mi Moshe ad Moshe lokam ke Moshe, to be the numero uno leader of Am Yisrael. Does anybody here know what that means? Not only that, but being the leader of Am Yisrael comes with a privilege. What privilege? The one who redeems the people will be the one who transmits the Torah of Hashem at Har Sinai also. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu was giving Moshe a tremendous honor. What a kavod. And how does Moshe Rabbeinu reply? Oh, I'm sorry, Hashem, but I must withdraw and give the kavod to my older brother, Aharon. What are you talking about, Moshe? This honor belongs to you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving it to you. But Moshe Rabbeinu was willing to be mevater. And it wasn't that he was foregoing a shtickle dvar Torah over here being said in front of his in-laws like Rabbi Akiva Eger. It wasn't that he was giving up an aliyah to the Sefer Torah on the day of his parents' yahrzeit like Chacham Baruch. It wasn't that he's giving a couple of extra dollars like Eov. Moshe Rabbeinu was willing to be mevater his entire life career. And that's why Kadosh Baruch Hu chose him. Because you were willing to give it all up, you have now demonstrated your true humility. You showed me that it's not about you. It's not about the anochi that exists within you. It's not about what's coming to you. Lefech, on the contrary, you were willing to give it all up because you felt it never belonged to you in the first place. Not only that, but later on, after Bnei Israel worshipped the Egel HaZahav, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, I am going to destroy the entire nation and I'm going to begin all over again through you. It's going to be a new and improved nation, and you're going to be the leader of this new nation, of this new and improved nation. Who wouldn't want such an opportunity? I mean, after all, think about it, ladies. Moshe Rabbeinu was leading a nation that had a multitude of sinners who committed idolatry, avodah zarah, despite all the miracles and all the berachot that they witnessed with their own eyes. They were spared from death. They left the land of Egypt with tremendous wealth, and they still sinned, and they still rebelled against the Ribono Shel Olam. No. So here HaKadosh Baruch Hu was giving Moshe Rabbeinu an amazing opportunity to reset the nation and create an entire new breed of Jewish people from him. Maybe if Moshe Rabbeinu would have agreed to this, maybe he would have been able to enter Eretz Yisrael. Did you ever think about that? Maybe he wouldn't have hit the rock. Maybe he would have been given the zchut to build a Bet HaMikdash. Any normal person in Moshe's position would have thought, this is a much better offer compared to what I'm going through here with these Jewish people. They complain and they sin and I gotta clean up their mess. But how does Moshe Rabbeinu respond to this exclusive offer? He tells Hashem, not only am I not interested, but if Bnei Israel don't survive, then I'm not interested in surviving either. Mecheni na, erase me from your Torah. I'm willing to be mevater my entire career for the sake of the people, so much so that you could erase me from all your books, and it's going to be as if I never existed. You hear this? And again, Hashem says, Moshe, this is why I chose you. This is why I chose you. Ladies, this is why Moshe Rabbeinu was such a huge anav. It was because he was the biggest mevater. This is what makes our Torah different from the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights, yeah? You see, the Torah's purpose is to refine our character, to mold us into better people. All these midot that we work on, they're meant to purge us. They're meant to perfect our character. The Bill of Rights and the Constitution, it's a very nice legal document, but it wasn't created for the sole purpose of making people better, but rather so that people could coexist, so we could live in peace. That's it. The Constitution wasn't written with the intention of perfecting the spirituality of the American citizens. It's only so they shouldn't kill each other, that's all. But the midah of vatranut in our Torah was designed to bring us to the ultimate level of anava. And humility is something we could all understand. Vatranut is harder to understand, but you could understand anava. Right? The question is, who says that the key to anava is vatranut? Letting go. Who says? Well, ladies, hold on to your seats. Hold on to your seats. Hold on to the seat. Yeah, and buckle yourselves in. I'm taking you now for a good ride. Let me share a shocking Gemara of Ta'anit with you. The Gemara tells us that there was a rabbi named Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, alav hashalom. He was the son of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, alav hashalom. One day, Rabbi Elazar was coming back from some yeshiva in another city where he had just finished learning with his rabbi. And he was riding on a donkey. The Gemara says, al sfat hana'ar. He was riding along the bank of the river. V'sameach simcha gedola. And he was so happy because of all the learning that he accomplished that day. Suddenly, the Gemara informs us, V'haita da'ato gasa alav. He, to make it a nice way, and put it in a nice way, he experienced a feeling of gasut ruach. He started to feel very good about himself, like, I'm a big learner. He was feeling a little too high concerning himself. That's putting it nicely. And then he bumps into a man who greeted him, and the man said to him, "Oh, shalom aleichem, Rabbi." Very nice guy. He greeted Rabbi Elazar with a little honor even. Shalom alecha, Rabbi. But what happened? Gemara says, Velo hechzir lo. Rabbi Elazar didn't respond to this man's greeting. Instead, he turned around and he told this guy, Leka, you empty one. Kama mechoar oto ha'ish. How ugly are you? Is everybody in your city just as ugly as you? Could you believe this is what Rabbi Elazar told this guy? Would anybody here and out there in the TV land not be offended by these words? Anybody here not be offended? And certainly this man was extremely insulted. So how did he respond to Rabbi Elazar? The Gemara says, Amar lo oto ha'ish. The man said to him, Eini odea. I don't know what you want from me. Lech ve'emor le'uman she'asa'ani. Go to the one who created me and tell him, Kama mechoar kli ze she'asita. How ugly is this vessel that you created? You have a complaint? I'm ugly? Go to the original manufacturer and ask him why he made me so ugly. What do you want from me? Ani odea. Do I know? So the Gemara says there was a back and forth. And at the end of this meeting, Rabbi Elazar bemet asked for forgiveness, but the man didn't want to forgive him. Finally, they arrive at the city, and everybody now is rolling out the red carpet to honor the illustrious Rabbi Elazar, and this man is shocked. Are you kidding me? This is a rabbi, you're giving him kavod? If this is a rabbi, there should be no rabbis like this. Why is everybody giving him such respect? He deserves respect. So at this point in the story, the Gemara tells us everybody in the city realized that something went on here between them. And they asked this man to forgive Rabbi Elazar because he's a big Talmid Chacham. Let it go, forgive him and that's it. And the man decides to forgive Rabbi Elazar. After that, the Gemara tells us, Miyad nichnas Rabbi Elazar v'darash. Rabbi Elazar immediately enters another Bet Midrash and he makes the following proclamation. He says, Le'olam yehei adam rach kekane ve'al yehei kashe ka'erez. A person should always learn to be flexible and bendable like a reed and not be stiff like a cedar tree. What an interesting and shocking story this is, no? Yes or no?
Yes.
If you say no, I stop here. The Ben Ish Chai, alav shalom, comments on this Gemara and says, this is a very interesting story, very shocking story, but the end doesn't really make sense. Rabbi Elazar walked into the Bet Midrash and he says, be flexible like a reed and not stiff like a cedar tree. What exactly in that story brought Rabbi Elazar to this particular lesson? Of all the lessons you could learn, if any one of us walked into the Bet Midrash after such a story, we'd probably tell everybody, Chevre, we should all learn to be nice and to talk respectfully to everybody that we meet on the street. We should never refer to anybody as ugly. We should not insult people by using derogatory names. That's the lesson that me and you would learn from the story. But for some reason, Rabbi Elazar learned something else that we didn't think of. He says, you have to be bendable like a reed. From this whole thing. And don't be like the cedar tree. That's what you learned. And the Ben Ish Chai tells us something amazing about this story. He says, Chaz v'shalom. Rabbi Elazar wasn't really calling this man ugly because of his looks. You see, in the olden days, the minhag, the custom, was that when you saw a great Rav, saw a great rabbi on the street, you did not dare to approach him. That was the minhag. It wasn't even considered respectful to greet the rabbi, to say Shalom Aleichem, until the rabbi greeted you. And here comes this, Rabbi Elazar thought, this chutzpan, who felt, Rabbi Elazar felt that he lacked the decency because as soon as he saw him, he yelled out, Shalom Aleichem Rabbi. So Rabbi Elazar told this guy, how ugly is this trait of yours? Do you come from a city that possesses such bad traits like this to greet the big rabbi on the street? And from that one comment, the entire conversation continued, where then the man became hurt and offended, and then Rabbi Elazar had to talk, had this conversation back and forth, and then Rabbi Elazar had to ask for mechila, and the man didn't want to forgive him, and then they went into the city, and the people had to convince this guy to forgive Rabbi Elazar, and then he did the whole story, Ladies, do you know what lesson Rabbi Elazar learned from this? He learned the following. It's true that I'm a rabbi and I deserve kavod. The kavod is coming to me because I'm a big Talmid Chacham and I earned it. But guess what? He didn't give it to me, this guy. Lo natan li et hakavod. I didn't receive the kavod I thought I deserved. He greeted me on the street. Ze lo nahug. So do you know what Rabbi Elazar realized he should have done? He realized he should have just let it go. Just let it go. Not always are you going to get what's coming to you or what you deserve. If Rabbi Elazar would have let it go from the beginning, the entire story would have ended in seconds. But instead of letting it go, Rabbi Elazar thought to himself, Rega, you're not following the custom of how one gives respect to a rabbi. Kama mechoar, how ugly are you? Instead of letting it go, Rabbi Elazar blasted this guy. But when Rabbi Elazar realized his mistake, he went into the shul and he said, Rabotai, do you know what the lesson is? It's not about insulting people and calling their names. A person has to learn to be as bendable as the reeds. You have to let things go. You can't stand la'amod on every letter and every word that a person says. You can't demand the kavod that's due you or claim the rights that belong to you, because if you do, life will become miserable for you. But I want to know something. And maybe you want to know it too. I'm not sure. I want to know what caused Rabbi Elazar to behave this way in the first place. What brought him to make such a mistake? How did he make such a mistake? If you remember, the Gemara tells us that he just came back from learning with his rabbi and he was so happy about his learning. And then the Gemara tells us, I'll remind you, Vehaita da'ato gasa alav. In those moments of feeling good about his full-time learning, he felt some arrogance inside of him. And once there's arrogance in the mix, it's very hard to let go. It's going to be very difficult to be a mevater and to relinquish your honor once there's ga'ava involved in the picture. Once there's a slight hint of arrogance, then what's mine is mine, and you have to give it to me. And don't expect me to give anything up, not even an iota. That means that even a small and innocent good morning that was a little out of line will be very difficult to let go. And you're going to hold that poor misken, that poor guy, accountable for his negligence. Yavina? So if gasut haruach, if arrogance causes a person to stand up for his rights, then clearly anava causes a person to let go and be a mevater. That's the idea of sitra de kedusha. So you see, ladies, it was very easy for Rabbi Akiva Eger to give up his honor of speaking to an audience in front of his in-laws. And it was very easy for Eov to surrender a few extra dollars from his pocket. And it was very easy for Chacham Baruch to give up his aliyah. Why? Because they were working on sharpening their midah of anava, of humility. They were ridding themselves of ga'ava, of arrogance. And here we see clearly that the midah of surrendering and letting go, it all starts from one of the most important midot, and that's the midah of the Yud Kei Vav Hei. It's that midah of Moshe Rabbeinu's. It's the midah of anava. It's the trait of humility. Anava is a topic that's very easy to sell to people, even though they're interested in holding on to their rights. And they say, oh, why should I give it up? It belongs to me. It's due me. I earned it. It's very easy now to sell them anava because we tell them, why should you give it up? Well, let me ask you a question. You want to be an arrogant person? What are you? You're looking to be totally consumed with yourself? You're not interested in working on your midah of humility? That's something of great value in Judaism. Until now, we spoke about being a mevater when it concerns things like your money, your kavod, something that belongs to you. But ladies, in life, we're confronted with many situations that may involve people and not things. Take, for example, your husband. Your husband is a certain way. He may not exactly be the way you want him to be. He may not be to your utmost satisfaction and perfection. There are times that people annoy us because they are who they are. Sometimes your husband's behavior or his mannerisms can bother you. But you are married to this guy after all, right? And it can happen with your children also. Sometimes we can feel bothered by our own children. Think about all those parents who have certain expectations for their children. Many parents have dreams of what their children are going to become one day. And instead, they are what they are. And it bothers the parents. It's thoughts like, why can't my husband make more money? Why isn't he smarter? Why isn't he more assertive? Why isn't my child more on the ball? And what we're realizing in those moments is that nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. And as a result of not being able to accept the way people are with all their imperfections, we can carelessly get into a terrible argument with the people that we love. And when that happens, we don't realize that we're creating an instability in our household and in our life. So I want to tell you that there is a concept of vitur, where you have to be willing to accept and to tolerate what the other person is. Obviously, ladies, we're not referring here to people that are involved in gross negligence over here, or people who are complete deadbeats and doing all sorts of terrible things. We're not talking about that. I'm referring to the small quirks that exist in other people that bother us. Sometimes in such cases, you have to take a step back and you have to say, I'm going to surrender to this situation. It's not worth it. And guess what, ladies? I think that this is what the Gemara that we learned earlier was trying to hint to us. In the Gemara, Rabbi Elazar told the man, Kama mechoar, how ugly are you? If you think about it, many of us could relate to Rabbi Elazar because many of us have claims of, why did I get stuck with this type of mechoar? Why was I zoiche to have this kind of ugly problem in my life? Why is my mother my mother? Why is that child my child? We're always saying, Kama mechoar. We don't realize how often we see the people and the things in our life as ugly. But what did the man answer Rabbi Elazar? He had a very good answer for him. Very good answer. And before I remind you what his answer was, let me tell you who this man was. This wasn't some random fellow. The Tosafot reveals to us that this ugly man was none other than Eliyahu Hanavi Zachor Latov. Eliyahu Hanavi's answer to Rabbi Elazar was an answer that he was giving all those people out there who cannot accept their lot in life and have complaints about how ugly their life is. Kama mechoar. So Eliyahu Hanavi was talking to all those people who say things like, I have a right to have a husband who's like this. And I have a right to demand that my wife should behave like that. And these people are probably going to a therapist who tells them, you're right. You have the right to be happy, and you have the right to demand certain things in your marriage. But do you know what Eliyahu Hanavi told Rabbi Elazar? A very good answer. He told him like this. He says, look, when you fall into the trap of kama mechoar, the solution is lech leuman she'asa'ani. Why don't you go to the manufacturer who created me? And that's what Eliyahu Hanavi is telling all of us. Some things in life are simply a manufacturer setting. את לא יכולה לשנות. Some people are the way they are because that's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu created them. Therefore, you have to be willing to be mevater on the Creator's ratzon, because that's the way Hashem wanted that person to be created. At a certain point in your life, you're going to have to be mevater on that circumstance, and you're going to have to accept it. You have to, more than anything, you have to learn to surrender yourself as an act of humility in order to accept the Ratzon of Hashem. That's the idea of Lech Leuman She'asa'ani. At a certain point, you're going to have to let go and let God. It's a famous quote. Let go and let God. People don't know how to do that. Reminds me of a very cute story. I have it here. Very cute story about a guy named Jack. He was walking along a very steep cliff, tall mountain cliff. And he wasn't watching his step. Ooh, he started to fall off. He falls off. On the way down, he grabbed a branch and he held on. And he looked down, and to his horror, he saw that the canyon that he fell straight down. If he would fall down another 1,000 feet. Now he knew he can't hold on to that branch forever. And there was no way for him to climb up that steep cliff. So this guy, Jack, started to yell for help, hoping that somebody's going to pass by and hear him and lower a rope or something to get him out of there. And he's yelling, help, help, is anyone up there? Help. He yelled and he yelled, but nobody heard him. He was about to give up. And all of a sudden he hears a voice. Jack, Jack, can you hear me? Yes, yes, I can hear you. I'm down here. I can see you, Jack. Are you all right? Yeah, I'm okay, but who are you? And where are you? Because I don't see anyone. This is God, Jack. I'm everywhere. He says, God? You mean the real God? And he says, that's me. He says, God, please help me. I promise if you get me down from here, I'm going to stop sinning. I'm going to stop doing averot. I'll be a really good person and I'm going to serve you for the rest of my life. Just get me out of here. God says, Jack, first of all, let's get you bemet out of there and then we could talk. Now here's what I want you to do, Jack. Listen carefully. He says, I'll do anything. Just tell me what I need to do. Okay, Jack. Let go of the branch. What? Jack, you need to let go of the branch. Just trust me and let go. Jack was quiet for a few minutes and then he yelled out, Is anyone else up there? Anyone else up there? Evantem? Nobody wants to let go and let God take care of the situation. In order to let go, you have to trust in Hashem. At a certain point in your life, like we said, you just have to let go and let Hashem take care of it. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu put you in a particular situation, part of humility, part of anava, is accepting your lot as the divine will, as the Ratzon of Hashem. That's the way Hashem wanted your family to look like. This is the way your parnasah is right now. This is the level of your husband right now. Right now, this is the way it is. Now, why did I choose to talk about this particular subject when there are so many other interesting topics in Yahadut? Lama zeh? Well, ladies, to end the shiur, I'm going to give you the answer to that question. Lama this topic? And the answer is found in a very interesting Gemara of Megillah. And since Purim is coming up very soon, I figure we're going to kill two birds with one stone. Miskanim, those birds. Do you remember when Esther HaMalka invited Haman to the private party that she was hosting for Achashverosh? Remember? The Rabbanim wonder why she did that. Rabbanim ask, Ma ra'ata Esther shezimna et Haman? What was Esther's intention when she invited Haman to this private party? The great Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh alav hashalom says, listen to these words, Ulai yargish hamakom. Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu will sense it, ve'yaseh lanu nes, and then Hashem will create a miracle for us. Hashem, who's watching from above, is going to notice this. He'll feel what just happened, yargish, and he'll send down a miracle because of this. You see, Esther was trying to effectuate a miracle for the Jewish people. So she thinks, you know how we could make a nes? We have to invite Haman to this party. How in the world is inviting Haman to this party going to create a miracle? Rashi HaKadosh says that she thought, Yargish, meaning Hashem, Yargish, שאני צריכה להחניף רשע. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to sense that I have to bring this rasha to the party, ולזלזל בכבודי, and as a result, denigrate myself. זה יהיה זלזול. Esther is the queen of Persia, and yet she has to invite this lowly anti-Semite, this rasha. This wicked man doesn't deserve an ounce of respect. And she has to lower her dignity as a queen by inviting him to her personal party, which would then make him feel honored. Esther HaMalka thought to herself, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu will see that I was mevater on the honor that's due me as a malka, as a queen, and that I did it for the sake of my people, he will create a great miracle for us. You hear this? My dear friends, we're living in very serious times. I don't have to give you an account of all the stories that have plagued our communities. We all sense the danger and the warnings. We're all turning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and asking, Ribono shel olam, how are we going to get out of this? How can we prevent all these tragedies and bring nisim to Am Yisrael? Ladies, we need nisim. In this Gemara, Esther HaMalka revealed to us the recipe for a nes. You want HaKadosh Baruch Hu to make a miracle for you? Ken or lo? Yes or no? You have to be willing to be mevater and let things go. Esther was willing to be mevater her royalty, her honor, and the glory that goes with being a queen to invite a lowlife into the palace, all for the sake of the people. Esther thought, when a Kadosh Baruch Hu will look down and he'll see this, he's going to say, what? The queen, whose honor is deserving and it's earned, is being mevater her glory? Rashi says Hashem will be margish, says Rashi. Hashem literally feels the vatranut. Margish את זה. He feels when a person surrenders. It's not just, הוא לא רואה, הוא לא שומע, הוא מרגיש. Ladies, this should be one of our national responsibilities. We should work on being vatranim, to let go, to surrender, and to forego. Because vatranut can bring the geula. And it could bring about tremendous nisim. Every time you are mevater, you should know that you are creating miracles for our people. When you surrender to the Uman she'asa'ani, the creator who created you, at that moment, that same Uman is margish. He feels it. And when he feels it, it activates a button called Nes. One of our secret weapons is vatranut. It could redeem us and it could save us. We should have in our life more Queen Esther moments. Because great miracles can come down to this world and to our people. You know, some armies, they fight with weapons. But we can activate our arsenal with vatranut. What's mine is yours, because what's mine isn't even mine. It's his. And as a result of our vatranut, we'll develop the midah of anava and follow in the ways of Hashem, who's humble, like his letters, Yud, Hey, Avav, and Hey. And then we'll be able to be like our leader, Moshe Rabbeinu, who was the most humble of men. You know, the word vitur shares the same letters as the word yoter. Yoter means more. In our case today, less is more. Meaning vitur is yoter. By giving up and letting go, you're only enhancing our nation and adding more. Yoter bracha. So let's daven that Borei Olam should look down at the army of vatranim and be margish. And Be'ezrat Hashem will be zoicha to experience miracles and be redeemed bimhera b'yamenu. Amen. Ken. יהי רצון. אמן.